So about 2 years back, I went on my first ever solo trip to Europe, and in this video, I'm going to be telling you guys some things to think about when planning out your own solo trip. So the advantage of being solo is that only you get to decide where to go and what to do, and you don't have to depend on anyone else. So choose a place that you've always wanted to go to. Like for example, my decision to go to Etretat in France was based purely on a Google search for cliff next to sea in France, and that was the first thing that popped up, so I decided to go there. I've always wanted to go see cliffs next to the sea, and I went to a place which had that. Europe is really beautiful, so if it's your first time going to Europe, you can't go wrong with any country really. Another thing to keep in mind is that you need to decide your style, whether you want to see a little bit of every place and see a lot of different places, or stay in one place for a longer time and really take it in. I usually stay back in one place for a longer time because that gives me an opportunity to know it a lot better and take it in a lot more. Another thing to keep in mind is whether you want to hit up the bigger cities or you want to explore the smaller towns. In my experience, the bigger cities are really magnificent, but the smaller towns are where I've had the most interesting and unique experiences. Once you've decided the places you want to go to, lock those in, because next you're going to be choosing and booking your accommodation. In Europe, you have a lot of different options for accommodations. You have hotels, you have hostels, you have Airbnbs, you even have things like chateaus and mansions that you can rent if you have that kind of budget. What you got to figure out is what works for you according to your needs and your budget. Like for example, hotels are usually more expensive than hostels, but they offer privacy, whereas hostels are cheaper, but you have to share a room with other people. So you have to figure out what you need and what you want and what your budget is and decide based on that. When I went to Paris and Brussels, I stayed in hostels and I had a really good time, and it wasn't that expensive at all. Hostels are also another really great way to socialize and meet people because they're usually very social. There's usually a lot of other solo travelers that are in hostels as well, solo travelers and backpackers that are in hostels as well, and it's a lot of fun getting to know other people when you're traveling solo. But whatever you do, don't choose a place that's so far away from the city center just because it's cheap, because you will be spending money getting from your hotel or your accommodation to the city center, and that's gonna make up for the price difference. I've also put some links down below in the description for some websites that are useful in exploring different hostels in different cities, and you should really check those out before booking a hostel. Most cities have a great metro system and daily and weekly passes which help make it much cheaper to use it. Smaller towns may not be as well connected as the bigger cities, so keep that in mind. So for example, when I had to go to Etretat, I had to take a train from Paris to Le Havre and wait there for an hour and a half for a bus. Alright, so I found a piano at the train station. This is absolutely amazing. And I have about an hour and a half to wait for my train, so I'm just gonna sit around here and play some music. And then take another 1 hour bus from there to Etretat. So it was not as easy as traveling to another bigger city. Alright, so I'm in Etretat. And I should go find my hotel now. You can use Google Maps to help you get around. That's incredibly useful, but for that you need a data plan. More on that later. For travel within Europe, keep in mind that trains may not always be cheaper than flights, so look at all your options before deciding on one. Also, make sure to buy train tickets in advance, because in Europe, train tickets become more expensive as you go closer to the travel date, and you don't want to buy expensive tickets at the last moment. Just like accommodation, there's a variety of different options at varying price points. I survived on local street food for the majority of my trip, which was cheap and tasty, and occasionally went to a good restaurant for something better. The grocery store is another option for food that is cheap as well as healthy. Like for example, when I was in Etretat, I stocked up on fruits, bread and cold cuts to last me through my entire time there. Also, just to chime in, even if it's expensive, take out the time and the money to experience the local food, because I think you'll regret it if you don't. It is very important, especially if this is your first solo trip, to plan everything out beforehand. Book your accommodation, book your travel wherever possible, and if not, check the bus schedules and train schedules and know them properly to prevent any possible clash or trouble. Especially during peak travel season, hostels and hotels sell out really quickly. You don't want to be in a completely new city with no place to stay at night. Trains and buses usually run on time, and they usually run on schedule in Europe, so they're quite dependable and reliable. However, sometimes issues do pop up.
No way!
That's just Murphy's Law, and that's where you have to use your brain and you come out much stronger after that. Like this one time in Italy, my family and we reached Venice at 7 p.m. It was dark, it started raining, my dad's phone stopped working, and at the same time, the boats went on strike. We had no idea how to get to our accommodation otherwise. Try to make it to new places during the daytime, as this helps ease out the stress if there's any trouble or problem. Things would have been a lot better had we reached during the day, so this was a lesson learned. Hostels don't have towels or even toiletries in most cases, so make sure to carry those, because this is something that you'd forget if you're living in hotels. Carry a pair of slippers to walk around in. This is something, again, that's easily forgettable, but it's incredibly useful to have. Last time, I forgot to carry my nail cutter and I was traveling for 3 weeks, so don't be like me, carry your nail cutter. You can carry some emergency food, but I don't recommend carrying daily food, because when you're visiting a new place, you should totally immerse yourself in that place, and that includes the food. This is very important. Carry luggage that you're comfortable walking around on the streets with, because unless your budget is very high, you're probably not going to be taking many cabs. And of course, make sure to carry medicines for emergencies as well as your regular medicine. So in most places in Europe, you can just buy a SIM card off the shelf and put it into your phone. And this is significantly cheaper than international roaming, and it keeps you connected at the same time. In France, I used a service called Libara that was 20 euros for 3 GB of data and 600 minutes of international calling for a month. It was incredibly good value for money. I hope this video helps you out if you're planning out a solo trip, or even if you're not planning one out. I hope it inspires you to do so by looking at how easy it is. Going on a solo trip is an incredibly inspiring experience, and you come out of it so much more confident and much stronger. After going on my solo trip 2 years back, I felt a lot more confident, and I felt like I could take on any situation. There's all of these problems, right? But at the end of it, I'm still doing it, and I'm proud of myself for being able to do it. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, because I'm gonna be uploading videos like this every single week.